My name is Jerm. This is Jerm Warfare, the battle of ideas. Farmer Angus, thank you for joining me in the trenches.
Dude, what a pleasure being in the trenches. It's got to be one of the best opening lines to any podcast.
Yet,
how combative, if you know, we spoke the first time in, I think it was 22, on the back of a thing that I wrote and I actually published it on my blog, and to say that I'm not going to force vaccinate my staff.
Yes.
And it felt, I wasn't really aware of you and your work, but the nature of germ warfare was very combative. So let's fast forward now 4 or 5 years. Do you feel that it's still as combative, or has it become more combative? I know you've had a lot of people trying to crush you and UK column, but generally, do you think it's more combative?
I've never been asked that. I don't know. I think it's probably just as combative as then. I think that the focus is a bit different. When you and I spoke, everything was COVID. But now a lot of that is quote unquote behind us. And so there's a whole world of interesting puzzle pieces that I'm, over time piecing together. So I guess it's still as combative. If I look at the pushback I get, it's definitely a war.
Yeah. So you feel it's still an information war, and all that language, warfare and trenches and all is still
the thing though. Right. Also, I mean, it is obviously all just branding, and it worked at the time, and I think it still works if you consider the fact that we are in an information war. I mean, if you just look at what's going on around us in the media, you'll know that there is huge amounts of propaganda, and it takes a lot of work to sift through things, Angus, to figure out what is true and what is not true. That's ultimately what I'm always trying to do.
And who have you changed your news? I mean, I know you sort of ask me questions, but by me asking you questions and hearing your answers, they inform how I think about, my various things. Are you using different news sources, for example? Are you subscribing to different Telegram channels? Do you find, maybe you don't want to name names, but there might be people or things that you don't follow anymore that aren't serving you? Or maybe there's something new that's come on.
No, I think a lot of people can probably relate to this. But what the COVID era taught me is not to blindly trust what the media says, and this applies equally to alternative independent media. And I think we must be careful of falling into the trap of thinking just because it's counter narrative, it's therefore true. That's a tough pill to swallow.
That's probably where you're getting your most vitriolic attacks, are from people threatened by that exact position.
Well, yes, think of it like this, Angus. Think of it like this. To simply assume this binary position that everything Fauci says is a lie because of Fauci, that's dangerous, because Fauci can certainly say things that are true.
Yes.
We just don't want to admit that. We don't want to say that out loud because we inherently don't like him. But the reality is that every person doesn't have a monopoly on truth. And so therefore we have to widen our scope. That's the way I see it. We've got to widen our scope. However, I do think a good rule of thumb is to consider who's got more skin in the game. Our mutual friend Nick Hudson, in 2020, when he started Panda, certainly had more skin in the game than, say, CNN. So I was more likely to look at the data he was putting out than, say, what Johns Hopkins was putting out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Follow the money.
Yeah, and also follow the risk, I guess. Who's likely to not be affected negatively? I mean, a big corporation like Media24, News24, whatever, CNN, all these huge media houses, if they get it wrong, it doesn't matter. They still continue going. But if the small guy gets it wrong, he's more likely to get crushed and disappear. And so, but it's not always the case. It's not binary. Alex Jones, I think, for example, gets a lot of things right, but I think he gets a lot of things wrong. And he is pretty big in the independent space. But Alex is one of the only guys, I think, Angus, who can pull off 80s cheese with the elegance that he does. He'll look at the camera and he'll go, "What am I about to tell you? Come closer." And the camera goes closer. I mean, that's something you could only pull off in the 1980s. And he was right. He was right about a lot of stuff. He was right about 9/11. He was one of the first people in the I think, was he in the mainstream at that stage to call out 9/11 as an inside job. He said they're turning the frickin' frogs gay. He was right about that. It's just a whole lot more sensational, but he was right about the toxins in the water.
Atrazine, which, by the way, is still allowed to be used in South Africa.
Really?
Yeah. No, Jerm, we allow chemicals to be used here that are banned in Europe. The Americans are the same as we are. There's a whole lot of chemicals banned. I mean, I can't believe you're not actually saying positive things about Europe, but be that as it may, there are certain things that the Europeans do better than certainly ourselves and definitely the Americans. And when it comes to chemicals, they are much clearer about it. And Trump's just gone all in on chemical agriculture, despite placating. Trump brought a whole group of people in through RFK Jr. We're going to make Maha, Make America Healthy Again. A sub brand of MAGA, and yet he's betrayed everybody. Trump has on everything. I mean, broken every single election promise. He's betrayed the Maha movement. The Supreme Court is now protecting Monsanto. The EPA has allowed a whole host of new chemicals to be used, banned chemicals in Europe. To me, it feels like this is an all-out fight. Grab as much as we can. We don't care what we nuke, what the consequences are. It's almost African in its inability to plan for tomorrow. That's what it feels like to me. The zeitgeist for me is that every single person is just trying to grab as much as they possibly can. And we can go into, if you push back on me on that one, by all means, I can elaborate more on it, what it is. But
I'm kind of conflicted. I really do like RFK Jr. And I don't want to say out loud that I'm disappointed, but I am disappointed. Catherine Austin Fitz said on my podcast that when he joined the administration, he became captured. What do you think?
Well, so he's him obviously because you've been on in the degree that you know a person once you've done podcasts with him, but that internet world is pretty close to knowing. His Fauci book, which I think you and I have spoken about, is incredible. He's never been sued for anything about that. So he's absolutely correct about the total crookedness of the pharmaceutical industry. Has he been compromised? Possibly. He's brought in. He hasn't achieved what the people who supported him wanted more. They would never have allowed glyphosate to be getting the protection that it is. All these EPA things. He's tried to make changes to the CDC, especially on the vaccine thing. That seems to be stonewalled. There has to be some success. What shocked me about RFK was how blatantly pro-Zionist he is. Now, maybe that's the only way you become a politician in America. Up to maybe a few months ago, it was the only way. But now there's some really interesting anti-Zionist things happening in the US. I mean, there have been some congressmen elected who have specifically gone on an anti-Zionist platform, and they've got the position of power. But when RF was talking in 2024, he was sucking on the Zionist organ hard. And these are the same people who murdered his father and uncle. How sick must your mind be, or how terrified are you of these people to praise when you know that they killed your uncle and your father?
Yes, but isn't he trying to stay alive then in that case?
Maybe he's playing 5D chess. Maybe Putin is playing 5D chess, and he's sacrificing his own soldiers in Ukraine to bankrupt, the great Satan of the EU. I'm not sure. I think that Russian thing's gone on very long, and yeah. Have you? I don't think you've interviewed a guy called Rurik Skywalker.
No.
Okay. So,
what is that his surname?
called himself Rurik Skywalker. Then to be controversial, he called himself Rurik Christ Walker. And then he's called himself Slavlander, Slavlander. So from what I can gather, I first heard him years ago on, what's his name? Jorve Moric or something. A guy...
Yeah, Hrvoje Moric, who's been on my show a few times.
In the good old days.
Yeah, Geopolitics and Empire.
Yeah, so I heard him on that thing, and I thought, gosh, this is a guy who's speaking like way out there. He was completely out of my frame of reference. Anyway, I guess 70% of his work is on esoteric stuff, which is super interesting. And this comes from this and this comes from that. But a lot of his work is on the ground, what is actually happening in Russia. He has some insights into Iran, And he paints a rather depressing picture to say where we are today, it's basically just mafia gangsters who are controlling the states. It's all corporations stealing here. Everyone's trying to steal. Currently the Chabats are on the rise in America, and if you look at it through that lens, it's actually quite interesting. It's very depressing, but he's basically saying that the governments don't mean anything. It's these criminal cartels who are fighting over their different perches, and they will then allow a certain politician to be in a place. And in the UK, Anne Widdecombe was murdered 2 weeks ago. Within days and hours of her starting to become quite loud about how corrupt Westminster is. Have you followed that?
Not much.
Okay. Do you know who Anne Widdecombe was?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm sure your colleagues at UK Column are way more knowledgeable than I am. And Anne Widdecombe was I think a Conservative minister. And I think she's become a spokesman or became a spokesman. Oh, and she was also very involved. Is it with the Catholic nuns or something? No, maybe it wasn't that. Some organization is very involved with, like the old school, highly educated, multidisciplinary Brit. They used to produce.
Sorry, I've just looked her up now. She died now, as in like a few days ago.
She was murdered.
Oh, really?
Within days of her starting to speak about how corrupt Westminster is. And they're trying to say, it was a burglary that had gone wrong. But it's nonsense. She was starting to spout the truths about the oligarchs and the gangsters and the mafia and the criminal class. At the same time, Andrew Bridgen, have you ever
Yeah. Andrew's been on UK Column.
He was the only MP who was questioning the COVID narrative, and they took him out for that. They didn't kill him, but they took his seat away in a totally rigged election. He'd won his seat 4 times in a row, and then on the 5th time they just totally changed the rules and the juries. I mean, they stole the election from him, so he should still have been an MP. But Bridgen was talking to somebody. I saw a little clip of it last week, I think it was, just explaining how utterly corrupt the UK is. And he claims it's the most corrupt society in the world. I don't think he's lived in South Africa or in most African countries for him to make that statement.
I love it when people in the first world have no idea the kind of world that we live in.
Yeah, but Jerm, can I push back on you, dude? England's not first. England is not first world. Have you been to Japan?
No, but I've been to China.
Okay. You were China. You did amazing work in China. A friend of mine just got back from Beijing. He's been there for a little bit. First time he went was in 2008, and he's been traveling. He says Beijing is probably one of the greatest cities in the world. Totally clean, which you can't say for any European city. Maybe Prague or Poland. I believe Poland. I've not been to Poland. I believe Poland is the old Europe. Clean, safe, not modern.
Shanghai.
England, France.
Shanghai is amazing. It is beautifully clean.
Those are first world countries. So Jerm, I mean, another big theme I think is the West is dying. Doesn't mean it's all going to die, but the West as a whole is dying and the East is rising.
I wanted to just go back to something you were talking about earlier. This is very, very important. You were talking about RFK and Make America Healthy Again. And
yes,
something that you and I talk a lot about is actually health, because, I mean, you're a farmer and you're one of the, I think, pivotal farmers in South Africa, maybe in the world, because of your regenerative style, which, of course, is very much on the fringe of mainstream agriculture.
This, of course, is the trade.
Yes.
There's only two types of agriculture, Jerm. It's a binary thing. It's either destructive or regenerative. You either improving the ecosystem on your farm, or you are healing the ecosystem on your farm. I mean, you break it or you're healing it. You can't do it halfway. And you are absolutely right, Jerm. It's a marginal thing.
Well, what I was going to say is, okay, so I mean, I've been to your farm many times, and it genuinely is beautiful and it's well run. But do you think America is healthier than what it was
since RFK's got in?
Yes.
Absolutely not. He's saying they're saying they're going to drop $700 billion on regen ag, which is incredible. Okay, but the Norwegian soccer team took all their meat, milk, and eggs that they consumed in the World Cup to the USA because they don't trust the quality of the ingredients there.
Have you seen that one footballer? Is he from Norway or Denmark or something? I don't watch it, but he's this huge guy with blonde hair.
Erling Haaland.
That's him. And he has a carnivore diet and he's unvaccinated.
He is so hardcore. He's this giant of a man. He's got the agility of a ballerina, and he raw milk, raw food, like proper carnivore guy. The guy in Norway who supplies him with raw milk spent 14 days in jail because he supplied Haaland with raw milk.
That's unbelievable. Well, by the way, we can get raw milk here.
Global civilization was built on raw milk.
Well, that's why the Dutch are so tall. I read an article about that. They drank, on average, a lot more milk than other Europeans over a long period of time, and apparently it had a significant impact on the overall.
Yeah, we can go back as far as the Bible. Isn't there a line in the Bible about the land of milk and honey?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's a biblical reference, the land of milk and honey. But Jerm, I think if we pause on milk milk is a perfect metaphor in my understanding of life as to what has gone wrong in the world. Okay, I would like us to talk about Walt Disney and how that's changed over time. But that's with your father of young children's hat on, which I don't have anymore. But can we come back to that as another thing of how society's changed, the Jungle Book specifically? Yeah. So milk, raw milk. So do you know what the difference between raw milk and other milk is?
Yeah, it's pasteurization.
But it's worse than that. It hasn't been pasteurized and it hasn't been homogenized. Are you familiar with homogenization?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had that lady, what's her name, from Western Price.
Oh, Sally Farrell. Sally
Yes,
Ann Fallon. Yeah.
Correct.
Sally
yes.
Sally Fallon Morrell. She's amazing. I remember listening to you actually speak to her, and her statistics on her fingertips is what's really impressive. Okay. And how many raw milk dairies when they started, they couldn't find 25 or something, and then I was over 5,000. So Jerm, despite what I said earlier about this grabbing and snatching and trying to just suck out as much as you can for the end, there's a very strong and growing counter movement of people who want the healthy stuff, who prepared to go the extra mile for healthy stuff. I mean, just before, the reason I was a bit late for you is some lady who lives in Sedgefield. Now, for people who don't know where Sedgefield is, I think it's about 600 kilometers from here. She was visiting her parents. She said she can't find any decent food in the area. Well, in Sedgefield, she's actually okay, but in this area, she struggles. Can she come and see the farm? So they've basically, with her young kids, she's a young mother. She wants what's best for her children. And she knows that milk coming in a carton, which is ultra processed, it's called UHT, ultra highly treated milk, okay, which is what most of the milk becomes. She doesn't want to feed that to her kids. She's looking for raw milk. So milk there's a spectrum of milk. There's raw milk, which literally comes out of the cow and is chilled, and you can drink that. In this country, raw milk's allowed, but people put pet's milk usually on it. They say it's milk for your pets. Although in Gauteng, they just say raw milk. And then at the other extreme, you've got that boxed stuff in the Tetra Paks. But there are two differences with milk. Here's my question. Why do they pasteurize milk?
Well, to get rid of the germs. Louis Pasteur hated germs.
Why did they want to get rid of the germs? Okay, no, so we changed how we raise the animals. Okay? A cow by design is a herbivore. It's not a grainivore. So what they did, and again, America leads the charge with all these things, they took the animals off the pasture and put them in an urban environment. They basically put them in, especially around New York City, they put them in these, and the big American cities, because they wanted milk right there. So they put these cattle in these layers. The cattle are living in their own manure, and they feed them brewer's grain. Okay. And they milk them regularly. So the animals are under severe stress. And so they get sick. And their milk is sick. And their milk has pus in it. Okay? It's called the somatic cell count. You can go to a dairy 50 kilometers from here and you'll see the pus in the milk. Okay? So to make that milk, and I'm putting it in inverted commas, drinkable, you have to pasteurize it. You nuke it, so you kill all bacteria. But so what do you do when you do that? You're killing the bad and the good. You've thrown the baby out of the bathwater. So then the next step was that people said, "Oh, I don't like the layer of cream on the top. It looks ugly." And also, sometimes some of the milk had a thin layer of cream and some had a thick layer of cream. And why did I get this one? And people would go into shops, they'd always take the one with the thicker layer of cream on. Okay? So they said, we're not going to do that anymore. They homogenize the milk, where they shake the milk so much that the fat and the protein molecules break. And then, therefore, there's no separation between them. It's just a homogeneous thing. Okay, so now you pour the milk, that you can't see the cream anymore. It doesn't settle. The cream doesn't go to the top anymore. So your human body, which co-developed with raw milk, can't recognize this. Now people say, I'm lactose intolerant. You're not lactose intolerant. You're intolerant to homogenized milk. So that's why there is increasing support for the raw milk movement, but particularly the raw milk movement that is grass-fed, grass-finished. So these are animals that are on grass their whole lives. Okay. And that's where Sally Fallon, Western Prices has powerful data at her fingertips about the benefits of raw milk, the nutritional differences with raw milk versus conventional milk. And again, this is the point, Jerm. We've taken an animal. So in South Africa, the end result in South Africa is this, that the average years of lactation, so lactation is when a mammal's giving milk, is 2.1 times. So we get an average of 2.1 lactations out of our dairy herds across South Africa as an average. Okay. That animal is capable of giving you 10 lactations. And some have records of 15 lactations. Okay. So you've taken an animal that can give you 10 calves and milk 10 times 2.1. Why? Because you are firstly milking her 3 times a day. And the second, you're treating her like a monogastric. Monogastric is one stomach. You and I and the pig and the chicken are monogastrics. We have one stomach, which is why we can take in anything. You put anything in us and we'll just chart. But cattle are not monogastrics. They have 4 stomachs. They're designed to take grass, herbivores, and produce the meat and the milk. So we violate their digestive system and exhaust the animal. And then they can only give us that calves. This is where we are today, Jerm.
Angus, there's a very interesting argument that was put forward to me after that interview I did with Sally. And that is, why do humans drink cow's milk? We're the only species that drinks the milk of another species.
But that's what we've always done. We drink cow's milk, we drink camel's milk, we drink goat's milk. How much raw milk have you drunk?
Very little. I drank it as a kid. It's difficult to find now.
There you go. It's difficult to find. We were lucky. We spent 6 months of the year on a farm and then 6 months a year in Cape Town. When we were on the farm, when we were 10 years old, my dad said, you have to learn how to milk. It was a hectic thing to try and pull those udders, the 10-year-old hands. Especially so you get this little tip into the thing and your hands get tired. And the zoo man next to you, he's milking and he's making music as that milk's going into the thing. And we drank that milk. Just, it's incredible.
I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but have you ever had your wife's milk? I think every guy I think every husband everywhere will answer yes, but very quietly.
If every husband who's had kids says no, he's lying.
And my wife's pregnant. That's what I'm asking. But now listen.
So no, Jim, that's interesting. And people have said that. We're not designed, there's an enzyme that goes away when and yes, one of my kids, for example, they bung up if they have dairy, but even raw dairy. Okay, so they don't do that. I've never had an issue with that. I know friends of mine who've done a raw milk fast for 45 days. So what does that mean? That for 45 days, all they've drunk is raw milk and yogurt. And that raw milk becomes yogurt. So it's either yogurt or milk for 45 days. They lost all their belly fat. They felt so good.
It's high in protein and saturated fats.
And if it's raw, it's filled with bacteria. This is what we're not understanding, Jerm. We for every human cell that we have, there are 10 bacterial cells. We are literally walking bacteria. That's what we are. But Jerm, so what I'm trying to say is that what I'm shocked by is that we as a species can't correct course.
Yeah, it does look like that. I wonder why. Do you think it's by design?
Jerm, now you're asking a deep question, and I'm not that kind of deep. I don't know if it's by design. I think it's a fight. I think it's a fight of good and evil, and it depends. You know, I think it's a fight of good and evil, and within that fight, there are a lot of other little separate fights. I think it's systems that have worked and others haven't worked, and but I actually think I don't think that matters. I really don't. I'm not that interested in how we got here. I'm interested in we are here now. Okay, right here now. And if we don't course correct, in the words of Vandana Shiva, humans are committing species-wide suicide.
Well, Angus, in the spirit of course correcting, I think there are little bits of hope. Let me give you an example.
Jerm. There's an Afrikaans expression, né? Which your UK column viewers, I'm going to have to translate it, right? Suiker sal nie in sy mond smelt nie. Which says sugar wouldn't melt in his mouth. And this is what Jerm's putting a picture up of patties that I only make for him. So that's why we call them the Jerm patties. and
well, they're certainly healthy. They're healthy. Tell me, take
Jerm patties will sell in a shop necessarily. It's not a clever name.
So we had these over the weekend. You made them last week. Take me through them. They were absolutely delicious. My dad says they're the best burger patties he's ever had.
Your dad's very sweet. So we farm on a farm outside Stellenbosch. Jerm has blessed us with his presence a few times. We do lots of things on the farm. The first thing is we've banned the word sustainability. And I think it's a really important framework to work from, because I don't believe there's anything in the world to sustain today. And Jerm, you always challenge me, and I'd like you to challenge me on that statement. What in the world do we want to sustain today? And that was keep it at current levels.
Well, what do we want to sustain? Well, we want to sustain our health, our good health. It's a very broad question.
How many of us are healthy? The human race has got cancer rates which are parabolic. It's got plastic in its bodies. Male sperm counts have fallen off a cliff. Female egg counts have fallen off a cliff. What do you want to sustain that for? We've got
so what you're saying is there's very little.
I'm just saying
there's very little.
I don't know of anything, not one thing. And this is what I'm challenging people to do. Is what is the one thing that we need to sustain in the world today? So therefore, our philosophical framework is regenerative. Okay. So if everything has to be done better. Every single one of our systems has to make things better. Everything we do is in the philosophy regenerative framework. Okay. Sorry, Jerm, 1 second. Do you want to charge that? No.
Is there Wi-Fi in his place?
Yeah, in his house and in his studio.
He's having lessons.
Okay, but in his house. In his house. Okay, cool. Yeah. So no sustainability, regenerative. How do we do that? One of the things is what's called stacking. So it's multiple income streams from the same piece of land. With conventional agriculture is a monoculture. You just do one thing. And I often think, like I've even got friends of mine who have factories in Cape Town. So now they've covered their factories with solar panels because it's another source of income from the same piece of land. So it's a diversity thinking, right? So one of the things that we do, and I'm not going to bore you with what all the other things we do. One of the things we do is do grass-fed, grass-finished beef. So what it means is the animals have never eaten any grain. They are raised on grass and they die off the grass. And so that's the first thing about that patty. The second thing about the patty is Jerm has a great affinity for black pepper, which I can't understand and I don't share it. But if you look at that picture, you will see that the crust on the outside is not a crust of old crusty meat, which it does do after a long time, but it's actually a crust of black pepper. And Jerm, I have to, and all the white is fat that's busy melting, because those patties have not been turned yet.
That is where the taste comes from, though.
Of course. This is what people don't understand, is the nutrition is in the fat. Yes, of course there's nutrition in the meat, but the real nutrition is in the fat. And this is where 99.9% of beef is feedlot beef. So these animals stand in their own manure and they eat grains and expired chocolate and pasta and whatever it is. But the fat there it has incredibly high omega-6s. So omega-6-3 ratio is completely out, and therefore the meat is highly inflammatory. So again, Jerm, it brings you one of our favorite subjects we like talking about is that true cost accounting. I'm a management accountant by training, and yet we never ever were taught about even
that. Sorry, that right there is something that I've never forgotten. I think the very first time we chatted, you spoke about that. I mentioned the price of your farm's eggs being slightly more premium than other eggs, and your response was, "Okay, but what is the cost of your health?" And that had a profound impact on me, because then it made me realize, absolutely, yes. If you eat healthier, you're less likely to spend money on clinics and hospitals and doctors.
So, Jerm, let's talk about. I know you're dressed in black and you've got a black background, and it's pretty dark there. Let's talk about some things that give hope for the future.
Wait, hold on. Wait. There's one very important thing you forgot about your patties, and that's you don't add water. This is very important.
Okay. Well, if you want to know what I don't add, that's the least of the hassles. You need to understand that the goal of the meat industry, and I've had a butchery for 13 years, the goal of the meat industry is to add as much water. One of the goals, right, is to add as much water to a product as possible so you can sell water at meat prices. Okay. The chicken industry allows brining of hens, right, where they inject the chickens with a brine, water. Okay. The guys who've got the record, and I'm not going to name them, do 120% brine.
Wow.
Yeah, bro. Just think about that. So my math.
What are you actually eating?
Math isn't my strong point, but I think that means if it's a 1.2 kilo chicken breast, only 500 grams is chicken. I think so. Anyway, whatever. It's 1.2. No. Sorry, math isn't quite.
Well, it doesn't matter. The point is that very little of the chicken is actually chicken.
Correct. Now, the law in South Africa says you can't do more than 25%. There's a law that says you can't do more than 25%. So you will often find, if you buy a whole chicken in a shop, that the wishbone, when we were kids, we always used to have a fight over pulling out the wishbone, and then one guy's one hand and another person, and whoever pulls the wishbone apart and gets the bone, you know what I'm talking about. The wishbone looks like a Y with a little thing at the bottom. So if you get the little stump, you don't get the wish. But if you get the big part, you get the wish. So there's always a fight at home about who can get to fight over the wishbone. A lot of these chickens, you'll find the wishbone's already broken. Now, it's broken because the injection mechanism that injects into the breast sometimes hits that bone at the front to then inject the brine into the breast. So getting water into meat at meat prices is nirvana. The chemical that enables that is phosphate. So that's why we don't use phosphates, because we don't add water to any of our products. Okay,
but the result is that
they add in those patties. So
hold on. Yes, that's the point.
So conventional patties will shrink. Not everybody in a conventional patty adds all of those things, but especially the fresh patties that you buy at the Great Green Retailer, who will go unnamed, but they have the same coloring as you do. They add not only water to their fresh patties, but you'll see it says gluten, and that's wheat bran, because that also holds a lot of water. So food science is a super interesting but super deceitful a practice, because all the guys are trying to do, and again, Jerm, we've got to talk about, how have we got, I suppose we don't want to talk about how we got here, but the capitalist system is so extractive. You know, I had the biggest food company in South Africa visit me a few months ago. And I'm a tiny, tiny little farmer. I have to tell you that. But these guys are literally the biggest food company in the country. And I don't know why they came to see me. Someone just said, come and, shake your cages a little bit. So we talked about regenerative stuff, which is way out of their frame of reference. But I asked them about their businesses, and they said, we are under such extreme pressure from one, government not to increase our prices, and two, retail. Big retail will not allow us to increase prices. So the only way we can increase profitability, because their costs are going up, are by cheapening our ingredients and making those other ingredients used more. So it's a super interesting scenario that we're in. What makes me super hopeful is we are getting close to being able to measure nutrient density. Okay, I'm going to share I'm just going to send it to you on a WhatsApp, and maybe I must just do it after the call. But there's a very, very interesting a citrus farmer in America, who I believe worked for Bayer for 37 years, so conventional, hardcore conventional, took over, got advised on how to grow oranges, and maybe even grew some. I'm not sure those details, but the point is, he was more than 30 years in the chemical citrus industry. He got a farm. He's kept one little portion of the farm conventionally citrus, and the rest he has converted to regenerative citrus. Okay, so what he's done is here. I'll quickly show you off my screen one picture, which I'll then send the proper one to you on WhatsApp. But basically what he's done is he's kept a control, which is this one in the middle, and then there are the regenerative ones. And if you look at all the little oranges, the regenerative ones, for example, on a thing called hesperidin, which helps blood flow, brain cognition, memory, reduces heart inflammation. He's got 39 times more hesperidin than the conventional, which is on his own farm, is the control block on his own farm. So my hope is that we are going into a world, and I speak regularly to guys who invest in lots of different agricultural startups. We're getting closer and closer to being able to measure nutrient density. And I promise you, Jerm, the day that happens is the entire agricultural system will fall away, because the agricultural system of today is only producing for quantity, not for quality. And as soon as we can eat healthier foods, we will be a healthier society.
I mean, we can be healthy still.
What, with pesticide-laden food that's empty nutrient?
No. I mean, we have to obviously choose our battles. We've got to be very careful where we get our food from.
Sure.
Like from Farmer Angus.
Food's obviously not the only thing. It's what you do. What is giving you meaning in life? How do you treat other people? What do you drink? Dude, Water is critical.
Well, hold on. Speaking.
Sleep.
There we go.
I actually thought about that photograph the other day.
So there's happiness and drinking.
Yes, they don't always go hand in hand, but in that case they did.
Just quickly, for those who don't know the context.
That was nearly 3 years, it's almost 3 years ago now. Wow. Jerm, that photograph was at my 50th, and I celebrated with what's called a beefsteak. And the beefsteak, I celebrated with a pre-1925 or 1930 beefsteak, which was a beer, beef, and boys. No women, no vegetables, and no hard alcohol.
And no cutlery.
Pardon?
No cutlery either.
Oh, sorry, no cutlery. Yeah, definitely no cutlery. That's why we had these lovely aprons, which you can see mine is already dirty at the bottom.
And so you gave each one of us an apron with our name on it. You gave us a beer glass with our name on it and a metal spoon.
Yes. Do you still have any of them?
Yes. My wife drinks out of my beer glass. She drinks water out of it all the time.
Well, at least your son's not drinking out of it yet. Beer out of it yet.
But I mean, that was a full carnivore evening, hey? Carnivore.
Yeah,
We only had meat that you shot, and then of course a beer.
Yeah, amazing. So I did that for my 50th. I intend doing it for every decade. My daughter is still very unamused that she's never been invited.
But it allows us to have conversations we otherwise wouldn't.
Yeah. Tell me.
But hold on. So the interesting addendum there is actually you were talking about things that are healthy, and this is something that the COVID era definitely impacted in all the wrong ways. They told us to stay away from healthy people. They stayed us to be indoors. They told us to be out of the sun. They still do that now. We must be afraid of the sun. You know, something as simple as having friends and celebrating with your friends and having a good time. Those things are healthy. And it's weird that we have to actually say it, but we have to say it these days. Because everybody, I mean, I saw a statistic that something like 30% of all Americans take antidepressants.
Well, I'm surprised it's that low. I really am. Do you take statins? Am I allowed to ask that question?
You can ask. I don't take anything.
Okay.
I stopped taking all pharmaceutical stuff around 2019, 2020.
Another thing that's super hopeful for me is on that subject. I'm just quickly sending you this before I forget the orange thing, which is amazing. Another thing that's for me super hopeful is that cholesterol is being taken on.
Finally.
And there's a brilliant documentary called The Cholesterol Code, which was published within the last month. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. If your doctor tells you you've got high cholesterol and it's a problem, But
come on, Tim Noakes has been saying this. He's been saying this on my show for years.
But these are things that are fundamental that support the society. You have to take statins. You know, cholesterol is a problem. It's for me wonderful that these narratives are slowly but surely being challenged. It really is. The other thing I was on that note, which has been very interesting for me, was yesterday. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm assuming you've seen all these Fauci diaries. Well, let me ask you this question: do you think they're fake, or do you think he actually wrote them?
At this stage, I don't know. I'll just say that for now. I don't know yet. I think there's a lot of fabrication. I'll say that. There's a huge amount of fabrication.
No, but dude, the guy is so hubristic. I think they actually are true. He's that arrogant and that misguided. And he was in that position of power for so long. And he got away with AZT.
Well, he got away with the whole HIV/AIDS thing.
HIV/AIDS thing, got away with literal murder. And so he just got more and more and more feeding on his own lies and the whole system supporting him and sycophantics. And so I mean, there's a possibility that they're fake. Or maybe they're embellished. No? But
no, I don't think they're fake. But I think there's fabrication.
I wouldn't be. Anyway, but what I'm saying is one of the interesting things about it is this guy was writing yesterday going that every single thing that Fauci said was wrong. And yet, almost everyone who believed him and went with him and attacked their friends who were questioning the narratives are silent. And this guy argues that it's because it's because of the principle of load-bearing beliefs, which is one I've never heard before, which is that it is so central to your belief system that if you accept that is wrong, then everything's wrong.
I mean, look, there is a big focus on Fauci, and Sasha Latipova and Mike Eden, many others on my podcast have said that he's not a good man, and he's certainly been involved in a lot of bad stuff. But there is a but. The constant focus on him is a bit of a low-hanging fruit because he wasn't actually driving the whole thing. So by focusing on him, you're kind of doing a look over here, look over here.
I agree. I completely agree with the first part, that you got an Overton window and let's fight about Fauci. There's a whole criminals also involved with him. But he was very important in that. You cannot downplay his role, Jerm.
Sure.
He and Deborah Birx, they were in that White House all the time.
Deborah Birx is very, very pivotal. Most people don't know who she is.
Well, there's the point. He and Gates, all the time speaking about it. Okay? What I don't understand is from these notes, it appears that Trump absolutely lost with him, screamed and shouted and was furious. But now since then, he's claiming that Operation Warp Speed was a great thing.
So here's the thing that really bugs me, that again, all the focus on Fauci and others and Wuhan and biolabs, all of this also deflects from Trump himself and the DOD.
Correct.
So Trump never, ever gets pointed fingers at, and he should, because he promoted Warp Speed.
Correct. Jerm, I don't know how much time we've got. I do want to ask you, though.
Sure.
And why, in your analysis, was this a DOD operation? What did DOD benefit from COVID? I just can't. I understand it's a DOD thing, and I understand Sasha Latipova's reasoning completely. I don't disagree with that. I still want to understand, why would they do it? Why would they want to wipe out so many millions of their own people?
No, it's more about surveillance. That's ultimately what some of the pundits are arguing, that they're increasing the surveillance state. And something to think about here in South Africa, when the president went on TV to announce the lockdowns, in less than 1 hour, the military were already out in the townships and in all the we call them townships. So for those who don't know, I don't know if it's an international term, but what would be an international term? A shanty town?
Or shanty town, possibly. Yeah, informal settlements.
So like basically where all the poor people are. All right, and they had all the military vehicles already out in those areas within an hour. And I know this because people were sending me WhatsApp videos of these vehicles arriving with armed gunmen on them. Now, if there was no military involvement, why was this happening? And so fast.
Okay. That is a plausible explanation, is that it was actually the tool with which to grab control. And certainly, I think that in many ways it failed, and I am very hopeful in that sense, because I don't see these agendas as all powerful. I see them as attempts, and in many ways they succeed, but also in many ways, Angus, they fail. The truckers in Canada, miserable failure in Africa. Africans will never ever
100% failure. Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, not 100% failure, but
percentage of people almost on a daily basis, I think. There might be some people who'd go with it, but there's certainly very strong resistance. But what is interesting, though, is that mainstream media have gone even tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. I mean, mainstream media is so obviously controlled by the intelligence agencies. It's amazing. How pro-tightening, they've just got tighter and tighter and tighter. They're actually even more out of touch with the average man on the street.
And something that I think it was Catherine Austin-Fitz who pointed out during the COVID era, part of the surveillance capture attempt was also the vaccine passport. There was a huge amount of data being processed. Never forget that. I didn't partake in that. I didn't even get a fake vaccine passport because I didn't want to legitimize the system at all. But I know lots of people did. And that also, I don't know if you did, and I'm not going to cast judgment. I think people responded differently at the time. But I remember thinking at the time, I get it. You want to travel something, you're going to get a fake vaccine passport, but down the line, you were still handing over your data. That was for me the issue. You were still legitimizing the whole thing.
Some people. So it all depends how it was done.
Yeah.
Some people had this entirely fake creation, which wasn't even remotely tied in to their system. It's a very interesting question. I think a lot of people who had the fake thing done, they were like, "I'm gaming the system. I'm not going to let the system, impact on my freedom. I want to travel. I'm going to travel."
Well, we decided, and my wife, and the two of us decided at the time that if this is it, then this is it. Then we're going to travel our own country. We'll have to visit your farm a whole lot more. But thankfully that wasn't the case. It didn't pan out, and we were able to, everything opened up again. And because I think a lot of it was a failure. People here, particularly on the African continent, gave big middle fingers.
Huge. Only 6% of the African continent got the jab. And of those, the only clowns who got the jab are the petrified upper class, so-called educated people. I'm still shocked that people in this country even took it, because we were 6 months behind the US and America. And by then, anybody who had any interest could read very clearly that there were major problems with the side effects of it. Huge problems. And yet people still did it.
Well, I have a feeling that we're going to have something similar coming again, but it's going to take a different form. I think climate lockdowns are on their way.
Could be right. Yesterday I had a group of school kids visiting me, grade 11 children, so that makes them 17. And I farmed visits almost every day. And then some university students came to visit me a month or two ago who are studying ecologicals and climate science and that kind of stuff. So to all of them, I said, we live in a world where we are told the world's going to end. There's too much CO2. Humans are causing CO2. We've got to change. So I said to them, which gas do farmers pump into greenhouses to help plants grow? And not one of them said CO2. So I said, it's CO2. And Jerm, the quote from the American chess player Bobby Fischer? I love the moment when I break a man's ego. So it wasn't quite as extreme as that, but that's the first time that I'm going to finish with this story, and that's the first time that you see, like, there's a little frown that develops, but hold on, all this fear porn, my whole life is over a gas that they pump into greenhouses to help plants grow. And what the plant does? The plant takes the C and gives us the O2. Thank you, plants. You're amazing. You give us life. You give us the O2. That's the first question I always ask them. Second question I ask them is, what percentage of the atmosphere is CO2? Do you know?
Yeah, I think it's something like 0.04% or something.
Bang on, Jerm. You get gold stars. You get 5 gold stars for that answer. It's absolutely correct. So how is it possible that something that's Hamish's cottage, how is it possible that something that is 0.04% is so dangerous? Let's double it. 0.08. So just that premise alone, I don't understand. I'm not mathematically inclined, and maybe I'm belittling the impact statistically or something like that, but I just logically I can't see it. So that's what gives me hope, is that young people like that are going, oh, we've been feared into this belief. Maybe it's not actually what it is.
I'm trying to find a nice, neat, pretty way to conclude our conversation. Give me something nice and pretty, Angus.
Jerm, the sun is the source of life. We are privileged to be living today where we are. Sun is just our source, and we must engage with the sun. And remember, healthy food is liquid sun that's been captured. So let's get in the sun. Let's not be afraid of the sun. Let's love the sun.
Okay, how can I follow you?
Instagram, the Farmer Angus. TikTok, Farmer Angus. Those are I'm most active there. I have a website, farmerangus.co.za. And come and visit us. Our door's always open. Once a month, we do a Sunday tour because some people can't see us during the week. I mean, as I said to you, I did a tour this morning. I did a tour yesterday. This coming Sunday, we're doing a farm tour. Literally, our door is always open.
I'm laughing because recently I interviewed David Klatzer. We spoke about the Helderberg air disaster, which you must listen to. But he's very old school. And at the end of the conversation, I say to him, how can I follow you? And he says, I don't really know what you mean by that.
You're the stalker.
Anyway, Farmer Angus, thank you for joining me in the trenches.
Such a pleasure in being part of your information warfare game.
If you're enjoying this programme, you can help us bring more news, articles, comment and interviews to more people. It's your support that makes our coverage possible. Our goal for 2026 is for 10,000 new members. Join a worldwide community of UK Column supporters on our website or alternatively on Substack or YouTube.